Hello, Goffstown. I'm Jim Craig, and I'm your host on Goffstown Today, the local public affairs program brought to you by the Goffstown Democratic Committee. Today, we're going to discuss labor issues in New Hampshire. And with me to talk about that, we're fortunate to have Mark MacKenzie with us. Mark, a little bit about Mark. He joined the Manchester Fire Department when he was 21 years old, and he served as a firefighter for 25 years. He served as president of New Hampshire's chapter of the AFL-CIO in 1989, and he served as president until 2015. He's now president emeritus of the New Hampshire chapter. He ran for the U.S. Congress in District 1 in 2018, and he ran for the New Hampshire Executive Council in 2020. And like a lot of us good Democrats, he came in second. He did serve a term in the New Hampshire House from 2016 to 2018, where he served on the Labor Committee. And welcome, Mark. That's just a little sliver of the things that you've done. Thanks for coming on the show, and it's good to have you here.
Thank you, Jim. It's good to see you again. You know, you have a long history in New Hampshire politics, and you were great in the House. You're great in the leadership of the House, and certainly serving as a Commissioner of Labor in New Hampshire. You know, we work well together, so it's good to see you again.
We did. It was a lot of fun. But let's talk about some less than fun things. I guess right to work bill, like it does every couple of years, is back. And for people who might not know what that really is, could you explain what, right to work is and what it isn't?
So a number of years, the proponents of this legislation coined the term right to work, and it was clever of them to do it. But in effect, it has nothing to do with the right to work. What it is, it's an initiative of the right of those people who are anti-union, of those people who want to undermine the labor movement and the rights of workers. And it essentially undercuts the rights of workers to make their own determinations and to work with employers in their workplaces, and basically say, we're going to negotiate the terms and conditions under which we work. And this particular thing covers an issue in the law that basically says that we will negotiate with the employer, and as a result of that negotiations, there is a clause that we may put in if it passes, and the members have to approve it. That says in effect that workers who are in workplaces in New Hampshire will have the right, are getting the benefits of the labor movement, are getting the benefits of the contract, and should share in some portion of the responsibility for that. Now, everybody that's in, when you organize a union, it's 51% of the people who do it. So that means 49% of the people may not be part of the union. And yet when you organize people, what it essentially says is that everybody is covered by that collective bargaining agreement. And so the fair thing to do and the lawful thing to do, quite frankly, is to have people share in that in the benefits and pay for some of the freight that's associated with that, because they're protected just like everybody in the labor movement is.
Okay,
so that's essentially.
If I work.
Go ahead, Jim.
So if I work at a construction site or a factory or somewhere that's unionized, I don't have to join a union as it stands now, but I will be assessed a certain amount of money by the union to cover things that the union will do for me, even though I'm not a member. Is that basically it?
Right. Well, that's right. And that's the process to determine what the fee is going to be is a pretty rigid process. And it basically only allows you to charge, the non-members, the amount of money that it takes to administer the contract. So when people say you pay for politics and you pay for picnics and you pay for that's not what the law says. The law says only for collective bargaining related activities. And the fee is determined by an arbitrator. If there's any challenges, by an arbitrator comes in and it helps them to determine that fee. And nobody in New Hampshire or in Massachusetts or any place in the country is compelled to be a union member. That's a big lie that many of the people will say. Nobody can be forced to be a member of a labor movement if they don't want to be.
So what are some of the kind of things that I would get if I'm not a union member and I pay the fee? What do I get for it?
Well, you would get the protections of the collective bargaining agreements. That would include grievance arbitration, representation. If you were to get in any kind of problems, you get all the rights and benefits that are part of the labor movement. So there is no discrimination in terms of the wages, hours, or working conditions. Whatever is in the collective bargaining agreement that has been negotiated by the union, you have all of the opportunities to participate in that. And there's not one person that I've ever run into, Jim, that has said, I don't want those benefits. The only thing I ever hear them say is, I don't want to pay for those benefits, which is essentially what this boils down to. Your responsibility as somebody who is covered by a collective bargaining agreement to share in the responsibility and the cost of having to negotiate that and maintain a collective bargaining agreement. So, and if you get in trouble, any person in the labor movement covered by an agreement, the union members, the business agents, or the presidents of local unions, they don't ask, the first question they ask is, how can we help? And a lot of people think the first question they ask, well, are you a member of the movement? They can't, not only don't they do that, but they're not legally allowed to do that. Everybody is treated exactly the same, union and non-union members.
This fee that you have to pay, that's separate from union dues. You don't pay union dues if you're not in the union, correct?
That's correct. There is no union dues that's paid. You pay what's known as in the private sector, it's called an agency fee. But essentially what it is you boil everything down, and you basically end up with what they cost that is directly related to the cost to administer the contract. And if you disagree as an employee, as a member, you bring an arbitrator in, and the arbitrator is the one that makes the determination. And in the meantime, all of the money that you would have been paying for the union dues goes in, or the fee goes into an escrow account. So during that time of challenge, you're not paying a dime.
So if you choose that road, you're paying that fee. You don't like the union politics or anything like that, you're not paying anything.
You're not paying any of that. You're not paying for politics or picnics or buttons or any of those kinds of things. It's illegal to do that. And if in fact you would be fined that, if an arbitrator would have fined that, and the union pays for the arbitrator, I might add, then they would disallow that fee and you'd be giving your money back.
So what's the impetus to get rid of that?
That's a good question. And I'm not as close to this as I was a few years ago, but let me say this. At a time when workers are under the greatest assault we've ever seen, where their lives and the lives of all of their families are turned upside down for the reasons of COVID and the craziness in this economy, the idea that the state legislature is wasting their time on a piece of legislation that is nothing more than an initiative of the right wing, and letting all of these people who are suffering each and every day to go without the kind of attention that they should be getting. And that is a big crime that's ongoing here. Don't worry about the right to work. You've been doing this for 40 years. It's not important. What's important is the lives of each and every person in New Hampshire. And let me say this, I'll get off my soapbox because I'm good. But if you look at what's going on in the New Hampshire economy, it's about time that somebody starts paying attention. The legislature starts paying attention, and the charitable foundation and others have been blowing this horn for a long time. The gap between the rich and the poor is increasing. We know that there are the haves and the have-nots in this state in a way that we have never seen before. The middle is getting hollowed out. And the only people who can help change that course of that, or certainly contribute that, is the labor movement. The labor movement helps to raise all people up. And unfortunately, they're trying to dismantle the labor movement because they want all the power and they want to take it away from working families in the state of New Hampshire. It's an incredible thing to do, and take advantage of this time and try to push this legislation through.
I agree. They want us to all feel like we're entrepreneurs, so that we pay our own benefits and do the same work we used to. I couldn't agree with you more. So I know that this is passed. This bill is already passed the Senate, which it always does, right, and it gets hung up in the House, right? and it hasn't been heard in the House. I'm not sure where it is in the House, but it's usually been killed either by the governor or a veto or by the House, because there are enough Republicans who are union guys or have been union guys that understand the value of it, and we're able, it hasn't passed. You think that's the case this year?
Like I said, I'm not as close to it as I have been in the past. I know that they weren't there a few weeks ago. They're working really hard to put together, the group of people that they need. The thing is, there is no backstop to this. The governor has been clearly in support of this, the right to work. He will dance on the top of the Capitol building if this ever passes. And what it will mean to him is that he will be the first governor in New England to sign the right to work bill. And he will no doubt benefit from that. And no doubt he's doing it for his own personal reasons, and not for the workers of the state of New Hampshire. Because if he ever wanted to go toe to toe, I'd be happy to go toe to toe with them on this issue. It has nothing to do with workers and safety and those kinds of things.
So yeah, I just read up on it a little bit before, because I haven't had to deal with it in a few years. And well, there are 28 states where this is passed, I think, and none of them.
That's what it was a few years ago. They've been picking off this thing over the course of the years, and they've got some ground. But there were no states in the New England region or in the Northeast that have right to work. So if it were to pass, it'll be the first one in the Northeast.
Is there have there been any studies about the effect of passing this, or what difference does it make? I guess do we know?
Well, I mean, the proponents of right to work have always made the claim, and I was reading up. Senator Bradley made this claim, and he should know better, quite frankly. But he made the claim that somehow the economy benefits from undermining the rights of working families. This is a big lie that they have been spewing for all the years I've been involved with this. We have presented to them evidence, and not argument, but evidence to show that in fact that's not the case. And in fact, if you raise people's wages, like raising the minimum wage from $7 an hour to $15 an hour, it would change their lives, change people's lives. So the idea that unions are there to help balance this between employers and employees, to help balance it up, to help to raise all boats within the state of New Hampshire and around the country, that's what the labor movement does and has done for so many years. And so there is no, we've never been able to find any evidence, real evidence. Now, not hearsay or trumped up stuff that we have dismantled more than one occasion, the stuff that they brought to us. And in fact, there's nothing new. There's nothing new that they've ever come out with. There's a few studies that they've been relying on for years, but the overwhelming evidence is that when you give workers the rights to in workplaces to negotiate with their employer, to have self-determination, to fight for what they think is right and just, and to get their fair share, that helps the economy. It raises up the economy, and it raises up all wages.
So do you know if I'm just kind of thinking here, I'm a factory worker again, and if this were to pass, I wouldn't have to pay that fee anymore.
Right.
And so I would get no services from the union.
Oh,
so if I were, no? So yeah, how would that work? I guess
right,
I don't have to pay.
Here's a way it works. The best word to describe it is freeloader, because you're going to get the law itself that governs the private sector is not going to change at all. This little piece in the law allows employers to go in, allows the state legislatures to go in and to take the rights away. So basically what you're going to end up with, if the clause was negotiated in the contract, and in many cases they've given up a lot to get that thing, because it makes the union stronger when all members are paying, contributed, and got the skin in the game. The only thing they're going to do, and that's why the right has been doing this for years, is they're going to allow people now to get all the rights and benefits, to be represented, to have all the things that union members currently have and pay for. And you're going to be sitting on the other side of the table, and you're going to be laughing at those people who are paying the dues until it tips. And then nobody will have a union, which is the end game for the right and all of these proponents of right to work. Weaken the union and then take every opportunity we can have to kick the legs out from under them and take it away from them. This is an ongoing game. I fought this thing for 40 some odd years. This is the same old stuff. Weaken the labor movement.
So that's the crux of it. So what the fee that I'm paying now, if this were to pass, I wouldn't have to pay it anymore.
Nothing.
And I
You
still
pay
take
nothing, and you get all
still
the
take
benefits.
advantage and all those things. And I don't have to pay for them, right? And that,
Right, and understand, and the people got to understand that this was negotiated. So this wasn't something that the federal government just dropped on people's lap. This had to be negotiated in collective bargaining, which is the other thing. So the employer and the employee, and this is a live free to die state, it was the employer and the employees who got together and made these determinations. And the employees gave up something and the employer got something, generally speaking, that's how it works. And they have this agreement. And what they're doing now, the proponents of right to work, ignore all of that collective bargaining history, all that was given up and all of those relationships that were built. And in fact, many cases, employees don't want this, because what employees understand is that when you have a bunch of people, some paying and some not paying, that's going to cause a big problem in the workplace. And that's what's going to happen if they do this.
that just makes sense. So these are all bargained for. So the fact that I have to pay, even if I'm not a union member, that has been bargained for in the union contracts with the employer. And so this legislation just cuts out the negotiation and the bargaining that has already taken place and said, no, no matter what you want, if I have bargained for, this is what you're going to do.
Well, it's no different than taking any other benefit within the collective bargaining agreement. To one day, the New Hampshire legislature decides they're going to take out, we're going to make it illegal to provide health care to employees. And so you go in, it takes it out of the collective bargaining agreement and you're screwed, which is what they're doing. And there is one other thing that I think is important. First of all, nothing gets in the contract unless everybody votes for it. So 51% of the people in every one of these collective bargaining agreements where this is, 51% of the people at one time did this. They voted for this as part of their wages and benefits. And now the law is specific. If 30% of the people in the workplace don't like the fact that this agreement is in, this clause is in the contract, the only time that the only thing they can do in a collective bargaining agreement after it's signed is if this special provision, which allows them to petition the National Labor Relations Board to take that clause out of the contract, and they vote separately on that clause. It's called not deauthorization. There's a terminology for it, but it basically allows them to vote on that specific clause, and that only takes 30% of the workers. So it's not. So they vote. They petition. They get a vote. 51% of the people say take it out. It's gone. And so they have all the rights to do this, and you never hear the proponents of this ever say that. This is really in the hands of the workers. Get the state out, get them out of the business of overseeing collective bargaining agreements in New Hampshire. They don't have the experience to do this, and I think it's a shame that they're doing it right there, wasting people's time.
Would this apply to public and private unions and corporations, workplaces?
Well, they already took it out of the, they already took this out of public collective bargaining agreements. So it was a decision a few years ago that was reached and essentially removes this provision. But the public employees are covered, they're covered under different laws, state laws, essentially state laws. There's no national bargaining law for public employees. So they already lost those rights. Now they're after and they lost it in the Supreme Court. Now they're after private employers who are covered by the National Labor Relations Board. So that's where they're at this point. So
the federal government pretty much allows the states to make these these decisions if they can through the legislatures, right? Is that, as I
Right, well,
understand?
there's a lot of history for it, but essentially, when the original labor laws, federal labor laws were passed, they were very, they were liberal. They were addressing, the time, and they were great. And then a few years later, they decided they had given employees too much authority, and they came back with provisions, modifying the provisions of it. That's a whole different show. But they also stuck in there one provision, and I think it's 17 or 10B. Again, I'm dragging this back from a few years, but there is a specific section in the federal law that allows this to happen, that states have the right to take this benefit away. And this is what they've been working with for many, many years. So
I think
that's in
since
a
at least
nutshell. I think that's where we're at. And, you got Representative Infantine out of Manchester, who's the chair of the House Labor Committee. He has not been on the side of labor in the past on this one. I don't know, I think the Senate, the governor, this is going to be a very difficult fight. We got to, find a number of, you got to find a number of, moderate Republicans,
I noticed that the current bill, that there are every sponsor is a Republican, and there is no backstop. There's no there's the Senate's Republican, the House is Republican, the governor's Republican. So,
and the governor's supportive. I mean, we've had other Republican governors who didn't support it,
right.
and but Merrill never did. Greg didn't. I don't think Sununu did, actually, the old man. I'm almost sure he didn't support it. I'm not sure he ever was ever in that position. They always used to say, "Don't let it come to my desk." But certainly, Greg and Merrill and those guys never supported right to work. It wasn't until this guy got in that he thinks that this is, and really, for him, if he's got bigger plans, they're going to love him at the right wing, who already love him anyways, the governor of the state of New Hampshire, and they're going to, this is going to be beneficial to him, not to us, but to him.
Is there any evidence of I would think, like you were saying, the morale, that this must just break into the morale of union members and things. It must be really hard, I don't know, how disheartening to have that happen. Even, if you really are a union person, and there still are a lot of people who really believe in the unions. I'm one of them.
Right.
I don't believe in one now, but I understand the value of them and what they've contributed to our country. And I agree with you that since the 70s, anyways, there's been a concerted effort to just chip away at them, because
Right.
that's what's happening in all, I think, a lot of aspects of our society today, and the unions are certainly so I think this is just like you say. I can't imagine where everybody's sharing this, and all of a sudden you're paying and they're not, and you're getting the same benefits. That just must, and that's exactly part of it. People who want to bust the unions, that's just a setting up conflict.
When you cook it up and boil it down, this is what it comes down to. This is not about workers' fairness. And in fact, what I've often said is that I have never seen the National Right to Work Committee come in and say, let's increase workers' compensation for people, or unemployment benefits for people, or raise the minimum wage. The only time you see them is when they're trying to take something away, specifically the benefits of workers. That's the only time you ever see them. So don't come in and tell me you're a proponent of the rights of workers. You don't give a hoot about the rights of workers. It's all about the power that you're able to get. And, we're almost done. I know that, but let me just say, we have more billionaires in this country than we ever had in the history of the United States. It's about time the billionaires start sharing it with all of those people who have worked so long and so hard to make them billionaires. And I think that this is what this comes down to. The labor movement needs to come back. It needs to come back strong, and we need to fight once again to take back what's rightfully ours. And I think you're going to see a major showdown right now between Amazon. Amazon is under a lot of pressure to unionize their workers. I think that's going to be a really interesting fight. And I think you could see one of the biggest, most profitable organization in the country. You could see them become union in the months and years ahead which would be a tremendous thing.
That'll be interesting. I mean, we got a crumbling infrastructure in this country, and a lot of people, a lot of unions could do a lot to push that forward, and instead we're fighting things like this, we could be doing a lot of good for the country. So hopefully, things can just start turning around now. And like you said, this has been a quick half hour. I don't know if we could exhaust the show with this one topic, but we did a pretty good job. And I hope people out there understand the situation and the problem a little better today. I know I do. It's been a while since I dealt with this. And thank you, Mark, for coming on. So if you just hold on a second, I'll close out and I'll say goodbye.
Sure enough. And thank you for all you've done for the state of New Hampshire too, Jim.
You've been Mark. Thanks. You can watch these programs here on GTV through the video page or on our website, goffstowndems.com, by searching for the Goffstown Democrats YouTube channel, or on our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/GoffstownDems. Please like and share them widely, and thank you for watching.